So in the last lesson, you learned how we can optimize our queries by specifying the fields we want to query. Now we have another technique called deferring fields. So we have a method called only, and with this method, we can specify the fields we want to read from the database. Let's say ID and title. Now you might be wondering how this method is different from the values method. Well, with the only method, we'll get instances of the product class, whereas with the values method, we'll get dictionary objects, okay? Now, let's save the changes. Back in the browser, refresh. So we get the same result as before. Let's look at our SQL tab. So here's our query. Pretty simple. We're selecting the ID and title from the product table. Great. So this is how the only method works. Now you gotta be careful with this method. If you don't know what you're doing, you will end up with a lot of queries sent to the database under the hood. Let me show you what I mean. So let's go to our template, and after the title of each product, render its price. So we add a $sign here, followed by two braces, and here we render product.unit_price. Let's save, back in the browser, refresh. Look what's happening. Our application is freezing. So it's going to take several seconds until we see the result. All right, here's the result. Now let's look at our SQL tab. How many queries do we have here? 1,002. Let's see what's going on here. So here's our main query where we read the ID and title from the product table. Now, after the main query, for each product, we have a separate query to read its price. So look at this query. Here we are reading the ID and unit price from the product table where ID equals 1. We have a similar query for every other product in this list. So because we have 1,000 products in this list, we have 1,000 extra queries for reading the price of all these products. This is what I was talking about. So you have to be careful when using the only method. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll end up with a lot of extra unnecessary queries. Now we don't have this problem with the values method, because with the values method, we get dictionary objects, and these dictionary objects don't have this behavior. So if you access a field that doesn't exist in a dictionary, that dictionary is not going to issue a query to the database, okay? Now we have another method, which is the opposite of the only method, and that is called defer. With this method, we can defer the loading of certain fields to later. So let's say our product table has a bunch of columns. We're interested in all of them except the description field. So we can defer this to later. But once again, you have to be careful. So if somewhere else you have, let's say, a for loop, and in that loop, you're iterating over the products and rendering the description of each product, once again, you're going to end up with all those extra queries.